Hey everybody, welcome to Before College TV. Today I am here with students from Roosevelt University in the beautiful city of Chicago. We have some seniors, we have a sophomore, we have some of the most dynamic, interesting, intriguing, and charismatic students that you will ever find on any college campus. Vanessa, Samantha, Faye, Lilly, welcome to Before College TV. How are y'all doing tonight?
I'm doing
Good.
good.
Woohoo,
I'm doing
y'all.
awesome.
I act like I am from Texas, y'all. I'm from Chicago. Do you ever say y'all, any of you?
No,
All the time.
Do you,
I
Vanessa?
say it.
You do,
All the
Lily?
Yeah.
really.
Like, it's like,
No,
where does
not
that come from?
all.
It's
It's inclusive too. That's why I started saying it more now. It's very inclusive. So
yeah, I like to. To get started, if everybody would like to share their pronouns, if you'd like to do that, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. He, him, his. That's where I'll start. Samantha,
She, her, hers.
Vanessa,
she, her, hers.
Lily,
she, her, hers.
Faye.
She, her, hers.
All right, very good. I think it's really important. That whole pronoun thing, have any of you ever gotten into trouble with that? Just like in conversation, or does that ever come up? Because I know you have a really diverse campus with lots of different people from lots of backgrounds. So I'm just always curious, how do people share their pronouns in college? Is that something that you even do?
I would say like in introductions usually, either in the beginning of class or if we're at work, where if we're working with a student, they usually share, or we ask them to share like their pronouns.
Yes, that's like pretty standard. Cool. All right. Well, I'm really so psyched to have you here because I know you all are really big dreamers, and I know that you are super just ambitious and want to do great things. And Lily, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start
Okay.
with you. All right. I'm going a little slow. I kind of stall a little bit to get ready to like give you one last second to think about the question I'm going to ask you. But you don't know the question yet, but here it goes. So Lily, I want to know, what is your dream? You go to Roosevelt University, you're here for a reason. There's something you want, something you're excited about. What is your dream, Lily?
Well, I think one thing is, and it is something that actually brought me to Roosevelt, is really just helping people and connecting with other people that want to help people. And that was the biggest thing that I've been learning and networking for. So that's my main goal while I'm in college and after college as well. So
Yeah, so just helping people. Why do you want to help people so badly? Did you need help and you didn't get it, or did you need help and you got it, or why?
I think I'll be honest, I'm gonna plug my parents here for a second. I got really lucky, and my parents growing up, they were always trying to make sure that they were helping people, but it kind of ended up my family was helping people. So my mom grew up doing foster care since she was younger. So we did that as well when I was growing up. And so that was a lot of hard lessons growing up, just watching other people and other kids and what they were going through. And so that's, my parents definitely influenced that in me. And that's also why I'm here.
So you grew up with a lot of foster, do you call them like foster brother and sister? Or like, how do you categorize them? What's the lingo?
Yeah, I mean, it was always brothers and sisters, and they always called my parents mom and dad. Within a week, that's what it always was. And so it was never, I thought that was normal. I thought like when I was younger, I was kind of in a box when it came to stuff like that, because I just figured out, okay, yeah, we have a new brother this week, or we have a new sister this week. That was just, I don't know, it was kind of, it just became normal.
That's fascinating. Are you still friendly with any of the brothers or sisters that lived in your house?
Yeah, my older brother, actually, he started living with us about 5 years ago. So, I mean, he's at every family vacation, every holiday, and he's not adopted, but I feel like when I think about memories from when I was a kid, I picture him there, and I know he wasn't. So it's kind of weird, but.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. Wow. I was not expecting that. I'm so interested in the whole foster piece is so interesting. I don't know if any of you are familiar with, people who have grown up in the system, but to know that your home is a home that welcomes students, if anybody's a foster child, to know that there are like really wonderful homes and wonderful people, right? Like you had a good home, right, Lily? It was a good place.
I hope, yeah,
Right.
I think so.
Like it was awful. No, it was great. Okay, cool. All right. So I want to know some dreams. So let's go to Faye. Faye, so tell me, what is your professional dream? You're a senior. Let's hear like what job, what career, what would excite you? What is it that you dream of?
I dream, my goal is to be a medical doctor.
Mm,
And yeah, I have never liked doctors growing up. They always stick you in the body all the time, so I never liked them. I never liked going to them. I never liked the hospital. But I got to this country 2016, and I was like an accounting major then. But I watched a story that really like changed my entire view about the medical field, and I was like, oh wow, I want to be a nurse. Okay. I want to be a nurse. I want to be able to help people because there's so many sick people. People get sick every day. And I don't know. It changed my entire view. So I went to school, started out like a whole new system because I was an accounting major. I never knew anything about science or biology. So I was doing nursing, and then for some reason, I woke up one day and I was like, why do nursing when you can be a doctor? You know, doctors, like, they're needed, they're more needed. I mean, nurses are needed, but they're like
right.
up there. So I was like, okay. Then I went to my advisor and I was like, ugh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be pre-med. I don't want to be a pre-nursing anymore. And then he looked at me and he was like, okay, let me give you some time to think about it. And I was like, no, I know what I want to do. And then he was like, no, just take your time and do it. I was like, okay. So I went back to him the next day and the third day, and he was like, okay, fine, I'll just do it for you. So since then, I've been pre-med and I have never regretted doing it.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
yeah,
And you're a senior, and then
yes, I am.
and then you're going to be applying to go to med school. Is that what happens next?
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking the MCAT next year. Oh, I pray to God, because I heard the exam is really hard, so I've been studying my head off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Pick
so
your head. So you decided to study your head off.
yes,
Nothing else.
I can feel my brain at this point.
Right.
I can feel my brain.
Oh,
But yeah, so
that is awesome. I love that. And it's so interesting. I mean, nursing is amazing. And I've always wondered that when people make the choice to be a nurse or to continue on and be a doctor, I think it's a really interesting crossroads. And it's interesting to
yeah.
hear that you said you wanted to do that. And I'll be really curious. So Faye, will you make me a deal?
Yeah.
Let's see, how many years of schooling do you have? Is it like 7 or 8? How many more years after that?
It's 4 more and then residency.
So that's like another residency could be like 4 years and then
4 years, yeah, 4, 7, yeah.
So 8 year, about 7 years. So
Yes.
okay, so I would love to stay in touch.
Okay.
And in
All
7
right.
years, I want to know what that journey was like.
Oh,
I want to
God.
know if you feel like that was the best choice for you.
Yes.
And we're gonna match that up with this one right now with this conversation.
Okay.
And we'll do like a little like future snapshot back in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I
Are
do.
you cool with
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Yes,
good. I'm gonna
definitely.
hold you to that. Okay.
Billie Eilish videos. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Which ones?
Yes,
They
the
do-
rewind.
Yeah, they do the same interview with Billie Eilish every year now. So this is like her fourth. Is this gonna be her 4th year doing the same interview a year apart? Exactly a year apart.
That's so
from each
cool.
other.
We should do these. That would be such a
You
cool
should.
thing
It's
to like.
so cool.
Because you're all going to be next year. You're going to be, you're going to graduate most likely. Lily, you'll still be doing your thing. It'll be interesting to see. Like right now, Lily, your major, you're a political science and integrated marketing communications major. That's your thing, right?
Yeah, that's
Cool.
it.
All right, we'll see how that goes. I mean, because people change majors all the time. So, all right, cool. This is exciting. All right, Samantha.
Yeah.
Very curious to hear your dream, Samantha. Give me your professional dream. Lay it on.
So long shot wise, what I was originally going for was neuropsychology, strictly because I thought it was more fascinating. And as I delved more inside of it, with school, it's very hard. It's very hard. It's a very hard field. So I said, oh, let's rethink. I definitely know that long term, I really want to help, just like Lily said earlier. But for me, I want to help in more of a mental health way. So whether that be mental health counseling, I'm still on the fence. I am also applying to graduate school this within the next couple of weeks. So we will stay tuned to see where I end up as well. But long term, I think something for me is I really want to focus on individuals who struggle with anxiety. That's something that I struggle with. And I had my first ever anxiety attack actually around this time last year.
Wow.
It was my body's response to stress at the time. I had so much on my plate. And I think just trying to really make that more normalized within college students, because it is something that a lot of college students face. So in order to kind of like break that stigma and also help incorporate, some normalcy into college students' lives, because everyone deals with stress. And I think it's definitely something that is very prevalent within college campuses.
All right, so cool. It's funny when you talk about, you're like, I had an anxiety attack last year. It's like, it was like the happiest part of the conversation. You're like, yeah, my body was having this reaction. And it was, I'm sure it was intense. And
It was.
I would love to, what I would really love to know, I want to know more about that. And then, later in the conversation, if you can share that, that would really be wonderful. So Vanessa, I would like to know your dream. What do you get excited about? What do you think about that gives you hope? You can share a professional dream. It could also be a personal dream, but I'd love to know, what's your dream?
So professional dream, I would love to become a clinical psychologist. So as Sam said, I will be applying to grad schools. I already started my application for some, but that's ultimately what I want to do. I really want to help communities of color, specifically the Latino community, just because I'm Hispanic and I know the struggle of like dealing with mental health. I'm also bilingual, so I think offering those services would be something that is incredible. So yeah, that's pretty much what I want to do. I think mental health is something that's very important. It's actually my concentration right now. So I think overall, like, it's just something I love to do. And you said like what gets me excited, and literally when I think of like my future, I think of just helping others, like having those conversations, like helping them be better in life. I don't know, it just it brings me so much joy to think about that. So
well, you're all so you're just like such bright lights. It's just really wonderful to see, and I'm excited to get to know you and learn more about you. And I want to understand how you ended up here. But before I do that, it's really important for people who are watching this and listening to just get a sense of who you are. It's hard to know what experiences you've had that other people have had. So really quickly, I would love for you to take me back to high school you. So imagine you're walking around your high school. Lily, where is this? Fox High School. You're walking around Fox High School, and you are describing high school Lily. And is high school Lily real active? Is high school Lily really involved? Is high school Lily always wanting to be liked and trying to be popular, or like blending into the bricks in the wall? Or, like, just give me like a very cliche description of high school Lily.
Well, high school Lily got into a little bit more trouble than college Lily does. I grew up in a very conservative town, and so basically I dedicated the 4 years of high school to shaking things up around there. And so I pissed a lot of people off like that. I was very involved. I ended up, especially senior year, I was senior class president, but I was very, very outspoken. And so I caused a lot of trouble, but I think like good trouble. I like to think of it that way. But yeah, I was very involved, but very outspoken. What
was a big issue that that was a lightning rod, if you're comfortable sharing?
So I guess like the biggest one was just safety in schools. And we had multiple shooting threats. My junior and senior year, we had multiple of them. And so that was very scary. And living in an area where people are always concealing, like carrying guns and stuff. That was
Where are you from? So other people know.
Yeah, Arnold, Missouri. It's like 25 minutes outside of St. Louis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So that was, I mean, that's a really big issue. I wasn't expecting you to say that you were a class president. It sounded like, you were going to talk about being in some juvenile center.
I know it wasn't that bad. I never got into like real trouble, but I was in the office quite a few times.
Okay. You had things to say. You're very busy and have lots of thoughts and ideas. All right. We're going to mix things up. And Vanessa, take us to Palos Hills. Take us to Stagg High School. I know Stagg High School. I've spoken at Stagg High School, done a lot of work at Stagg High School. I like Stagg. People there are wonderful. Yeah, they're great. So tell me, who was high school Vanessa?
High school Vanessa, I would like to say, is kind of the same as Vanessa now in the terms of like speaking out, kind of as Lily said. I didn't get in trouble, but I was still very loud, very outspoken. But I guess back then, high school Vanessa was a little bit more shy, and that's kind of hard to hear. If like people really know me, they know that I'm not a shy person. But I wasn't as involved. I was kind of just like in my own world. But yeah, that's who high school Vanessa was.
And you're a first generation student as well. So that idea of college, was that always something that was going to happen, or did that become an idea later in your high school career?
Oh no, yeah. That was something that was always going to happen. My parents immigrated here, so for them, education is one of the most important things. So I kind of always knew that that's just the way I would go. And actually back then too, like I just knew that I wanted to do something with psych. So.
Yeah, that's interesting that you knew, because I know so many people don't know. And sometimes people get nervous when they hear that somebody knew, because, I never knew what I was going to do. Samantha, take us to Trinity High School in River Forest, Illinois. Take us to those hallways, Samantha. Are you loud and all over the place? Are you quiet? Are you just, who are you, Samantha?
High school Samantha, or high school Sam, I like to refer to myself as Sam, was very scared of her own shadow. I was very shy, very timid. I was not involved. I would go to class, take my little school bus, and take myself back home. That was it. That was my daily routine. I was very scared of people. It was an all-girls Catholic high school, so I really got to explore and develop myself in terms of like female empowerment, which I really appreciate, because once I got to college, it definitely made me more confident being in the classroom, being able to answer more questions. But I was not very involved at all. I wasn't really that well known in high school. I just kept my head low, did what I had to do to get out. So
I wasn't expecting that, because right now you're an orientation leader, you're a peer mentor, you are involved with so many different organizations on campus, especially like you're everywhere. So I want to know, and let's save this. Let's make sure that we get to this. I want to know how you went from Sam afraid of my shadow to Sam everywhere. Because that's what happened, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Sure. All right. So we'll put it to be continued. So Faye, take us to the Florence Day School in Nigeria, a place I can't even imagine. I don't even know what the school looks like, what the hallways are like, if you have hot lunch. Give us a flavor of what it's like to grow up in Nigeria, and also to be high school Faye in Nigeria.
First of all, I'm going to say the high school system in America is way different from the one in Nigeria. I see students complain, because my younger sister, she was born here, and then when she was in high school, she's always like, oh, my teacher took so long. And I'm like, okay, I go to school from 7:30 till 5, and I have to walk back home. You just walk outside, your bus picks you up and brings you back home. So why are you complaining? So it's really hard, because we have to do so many stuff. The homeworks are teachers, they just tell you, oh, okay, open this textbook, write this many pages, and that's it. And then they bring up exams from it. And so it's more of a self-studying, but some teachers teach, some of them are like, math, you cannot just like self-study. So it was really difficult, but high school Faye was not a book person like I am now. Even my classmates, when they see me now, they're like, I never knew you could be this, smart. But I never cared about books. I never cared about school. Not really. I didn't really study. The only reason I study is just to get out of, so they don't send me on errands and then I pretend like I'm studying. So I I didn't like any of my teachers except my math teachers, because math always my dad made sure that we knew math.
Yeah.
Math was a compulsory thing for him. For some reason, he's really obsessed with it. I don't know why, but I have been like a math person, and it just comes right and sticks. But except for math, I was not really interested in anything in high school.
So you got really bad grades.
Yes, I got C's.
Okay.
And I still didn't care. Oh, no, never mind. I won't say it.
Oh, that sounds perfect. Oh, we don't want to share it because then it's like you don't want to share it. I don't want to pressure you.
No, it's a bad idea. It was it's don't do it.
Don't do
it.
Don't do what you are not sharing that you did.
Yeah. So I kind of like rip my report cards and tell them, oh, they didn't give it to me yet.
Oh, your parents, you faked your report cards. Everybody goes through that. I mean, not that extreme, but
Yeah.
I love that your dream is to be a doctor.
Yes.
And you're on your way to doing that, and
Yes.
you're studying for the MCATs,
Yes.
and you probably are you doing pretty well at Roosevelt?
Very well. Yeah.
Do you have to hide your report cards from your parents anymore?
My dad is so comfortable. Like, even if I tell him I'm failing the class right now, he's like, I know you're going to get on top of your game in like 2 weeks, which I always do. Ever since I got here, for some reason, I don't know why, maybe because I realized here there's more opportunities, which I never had in Nigeria, because most of us, we go to school not knowing what the future holds for us. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend 4 years and then, end up, doing nothing with my degree. So why waste my time studying when I'm not even sure? But when I got here, I was like, oh, you could just walk into McDonald's and get a job. But over there, there's no McDonald's. There's nothing. You have to like strive to get a job. But here, I realized that education really matters and your GPA counts. Everyone says it, like every school, your GPA counts. And I realized, I sat myself down and I was like, you can do it. You just didn't have that opportunity there. My dad told me you never had the opportunity. That's why we brought you here, so you can have that opportunity that we never had. And then I was like, okay, I could do it. And
Yeah.
I never ever, did bad.
Let me just ask you one question about you're also a first generation student, correct?
Yeah.
So, you talk a lot about your family and how much they've invested and how much they're in your corner. But do you ever struggle when you don't get a grade that isn't what you want, that you're going to disappoint your family? Or, because a lot of times first gen students carry the weight of not just their own challenges, but the entire families.
Yeah, it's really a high pressure for me, because even at this point, I'm like scared, like, what if I don't do good on the MCAT? What if I, end up not going to medical school? That's why I literally stay up all night to make sure that I gotta do it right. It's a huge pressure just knowing that, okay, I'm a first gen, I gotta do it. And if you're gonna do it right. So it's the pressure is just up there. Sometimes when I think about it, I could probably break a blood pressure cuff. So
yeah. Do you like that? Do you like feeling that way?
No, it's not a good feeling. So
Yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, I know that Vanessa and Samantha, mental health is something that you already said is really important to you. And that idea of being able to be an achiever and still be able to be healthy. Like, Vanessa, do you think that's possible?
I think it is. I think it's like very, very possible, but you need to surround yourself with the right resources. I think you need to know when like enough is enough, and like you just need to know what you can and can't handle, and you need to make sure that you have people in your corner to support you.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Well, it sounds like you're all in each other's corner. But Faye, just to add one more thing, if let's say, and this is for not just for you, for anybody, because I am surrounded by high achievers. Just, I have kids who are high achievers, and I have a wife who's a high achiever, and I'm a high achiever, so I'm trapped in a high achiever's mind and body. And this idea of giving myself permission to be imperfect, the idea that, Faye, you're going to work as hard as you possibly can. And if you get into med school, then that's great. And if you don't get in, then you'll get in the next year. And you'll work at a doctor's office, or you'll work in some type of healthcare facility. And you're going to surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you love to do. And you're going to study throughout the year. Then you're going to take your MCATs again. And you're going to get in. And if you don't get in that second time, then you're going to continue to do that. And ultimately, you're going to discover something so wonderful and be aligned with people who just support you and fill you up with goodness. You'll be there. I was at another school, and we had a room full of students. And one of the students talked about, it was a nursing major. And the nursing major talked about how she had failed organic 3 times and passed on the 4th try. And then she said that she talked to her doctor, who was kind of like in her corner during this, and explained to the doctor, I failed 3 times and I finally passed. And the doctor said, that's great. I failed 4 times. It took me the 5th time to pass. And I think that idea that you could be a doctor and you can still get your C's and, get your degree and be exceptional, just like as someone else who's in your corner, to just help you to see that. And would you all agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
That, because I think that's a really, it's a really hard, it's hard to manage all the changes that you're all dealing with. And you're all so wonderful. And I want you to be so happy. And I want to understand how you chose Roosevelt University. Some people in the Chicago area are real familiar with Roosevelt. I think there's a lot of people who aren't familiar. So I'd love to know how you discovered Roosevelt, and what are some of the other schools that you were considering, and how did you end up making that decision? And just to mix it up, I think I'll start with Vanessa. Tell me about your college search and how you ended up at Roosevelt.
So I started looking at schools kind of like my junior year. I knew that I wanted to major in psych, but I didn't know where exactly I wanted to go. My first choice was University of Iowa for a while, and then I visited and I saw that it was huge. I saw the lecture halls and I was like, this is crazy. It's not for me. And then I visited Bradley, and it was honestly between Bradley, Concordia, and Roosevelt. So Bradley was just my number one because I just wanted that like college experience. So going away, I was just like ready. Like I was ready to submit my deposit. But then I realized that it was too expensive. And I was just like, like this isn't something I would be able to afford. And my parents were not working as good. So I just knew that it would not be something that they could afford either. So then I narrowed it down to Concordia and Roosevelt.
Let me interrupt. Did you get a financial aid offer from Bradley, or did you decide before even applying?
No, I applied. I got in. So I got into all these schools.
Okay.
And I was then looking at expenses, and I saw that it was just like too much for Bradley. They did give me a scholarship, but I still had to pay around like $12,000 out of pocket. So this was like with loans too. So I was already taking out like $5,000 in loans from what like FAFSA was available.
Gotcha.
And then with Concordia and Roosevelt, Concordia was actually a little bit less. But they both gave me the same amount in like scholarships. So it really just depended then on like if I wanted to be in the city, or if I just, wanted a like quieter town. And I didn't really like that. They didn't really, it doesn't matter, like they're Lutheran, but it does, you don't have to be Lutheran to go to school there. But for me, I'm Catholic, but it didn't really matter. I was just like, okay, like, whatever. But I just like that Roosevelt was in the middle of, like Chicago. So I was like, okay, like this is a lot better. And then I just decided to go with them just because of finances. It was close to home. And then overall it being in the city.
Did you know anyone at Roosevelt?
No, I know there was some girl from SAG who had gone there, but I wasn't friends with her. So I did
Right.
not
So you
know
went there
anyone.
with no friends.
Yeah, no friends.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you made some friends, right?
I made a lot of friends, yes.
Right. And one of your closest friends is who?
Sam. It is Sam, yes.
It's Sam. Right.
Yeah.
Like
She was
your best friend.
Yes, my best friend.
Yeah. Sam, would you agree with that?
I'm gonna guess.
You'll say that Vanessa's your best friend?
No, she is. She definitely is.
Okay, yeah. Right. That's great. Well, I'm so glad that you ended up at Roosevelt where you met your best friend. Samantha, tell me, how did you end up choosing Roosevelt, and tell me a little bit about your college search and selection process.
Yeah, so for me, let's go back to high school, Sam. So she was very shy, very afraid. I never wanted to stray away from one, my home, and two, anything that was unfamiliar to me. So both of my parents are graduates of Roosevelt University. They attended, and so it was kind of written in my destiny for me to go there. Ever since I was little, I would see my parents because they are non-traditional students. So I would see them, doing their coursework on Blackboard. So I was always familiar. And on occasion, my mom would take me to like her classes with her. I would sit in, and I got to know some of the professors already that way.
How old were you when this was going on?
The first time I visited, I was around 10 or 11. My mom was completing her bachelor's degree, and then she went for her master's in clinical psychology at Roosevelt as well. Wow. And I would sit in on those classes. So I got to see some of those professors as well.
That's amazing. And your mom graduated?
Yeah,
and
she did.
Has her master's. What year? How can I ask how old was she when she was doing her undergrad?
She was in her early 30s.
Yeah.
And then she took a break for a while, and then she went back. And I believe she finished her master's when she was around 45.
Really? And then your dad, you said, was also taking classes, or was that?
Yeah, my dad has his bachelor's from Roosevelt.
And when did he get his?
2012. Yes, because as he ended, I was just graduating 8th grade.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. I love that. Your parents, are they people you look up to? I mean, it's like, what kind of question is that? But I mean. Yeah,
110%. They definitely pushed me to pursue a degree in like higher education. They always encouraged me to keep going. Education has always been at the forefront of my upbringing. And, they have been living proof showing me that it has opened numerous doors time and time again. So I really just look up to them so much and use those experiences that they have, provided for me to live through. So yeah, I always carry that with me in my little back pocket.
So Roosevelt was where you did you want to go somewhere else? And then they're like, we're Roosevelt people, Sam. We're Roosevelt. We are only Roosevelt. Was it like that, or did you have a choice?
No. You'd think no, but Roosevelt was my choice as well. I also had two friends that went to high school with me who also walked into Roosevelt with me. So that was just a whole nother thing. Roosevelt also had a bridging program that helped students come from high school to college. We had like a 6-week intensive summer course, and we did that all together. So it was just another reason for me just to, not stray away from anything that was familiar to me.
Right. So it's interesting because you went the route of something that's kind of safe and comfortable, but then once you got there, like you really found your way. You really explored and took risks. And I want to understand that, but I want to understand Lilly and Faye's journey. Then we'll continue with how were you able to break out of the shell? Because I think that's so many people want to break out and they're just so afraid. And I really want to understand that. So we will break out of your shell in a little bit. Lilly, so tell me a little bit about your journey coming from Missouri, which is interesting, outside of St. Louis. People may not be as familiar with Roosevelt, or even, being in downtown Chicago and how that works. So how did you end up here?
Well, I was actually in high school, I was spending a lot of time in Chicago because another plug for my parents, but my mom was actually a surrogate and she ended up having twins for a couple in Chicago. And we got really close with the family, which apparently is not very common in that situation. So, I mean, we were up here visiting all the time. Every few months, we'd come up and visit, see them.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the city. They lived in Lincoln Park. So it was like a cute, the cutest little area. And then how I found Roosevelt, it's actually kind of funny. I was taking like it's kind of like college, like a college dating app. You like literally put in your preference for everything. And it gave me my top 10 or whatever. And Roosevelt was number 1. So I was like, okay, I've never heard of it, but it was on Naviance and my high school offered it to us. And so I put in how big I wanted the school, what type of, what I was thinking as far as majors, stuff like that. And then Roosevelt was number 1. So I was like, well, I guess next time we're in Chicago, we should just go visit it, me and my family. Yeah. And so that's how I found Roosevelt was online.
That's interesting. So for someone who's not familiar, I know you just did this experience, you just went through this, kind of just give some highlights of what makes Roosevelt unique. And I also know you have some tour guides, or at least a tour guide I know here as well. So the tour guides and those who are familiar can jump in, but just kind of give me some bullet points of just what makes it unique, why it was good for you. So if there's anyone else out there, they can look it up and check it out.
Well, I'll say, I guess I'll go back to, because Roosevelt was actually the only school I ended up applying to at all. Like that was the only one. And so, when I went to visit it, I walked in and I was like, this is it. Like, this is where I want to be. Yeah. And a lot of that had to do with, I walked in, everyone was smiling. It seems like, okay, yeah, the people that you run into when you're visiting a school should be smiling, but it was just like, students were smiling, the faculty was smiling, staff was smiling. That was something I'll never forget. And then it just felt good to be there. The building is so cool. The location is cool. And so that really helps when it comes to colleges, but also like people are happy to be there. And so that stood out from the other colleges that I went to go visit for sure.
Yeah. And then who's the tour guide? Is it Samantha? Are you a tour guide? Or Vanessa, are you a tour guide? Or one of you?
We were orientation leaders.
Orientation leaders. Yeah. So different than being a tour guide, of course. But as an orientation leader, you have a lot of pride. Just like back and forth, I'm curious to hear why people choose Roosevelt. And then Faye, I didn't forget about you. I want to hear your college journey, but I want to just get a handle of just like the flavor, why people choose it. And one of the reasons that you enjoy it so much, and the two of you, can kind of share that together. I know you like to share together.
We do. Well, a lot of times when we're working orientation, a lot of students say, 1, because of the area, 2, also because of the social justice mission that our school has. We take pride on, incorporating that in a lot of our different courses that we offer, especially within the first 2 years, which is kind of like our core classes. So the first 2 years at Roosevelt, it's really incorporated into the curriculum. So I think that students who know about the social justice mission definitely push towards Roosevelt for that reason, because we all kind of have similar ideology and beliefs. So it's kind of like a safe haven once you step foot inside of Roosevelt. That obviously everyone at the end of the day still has difference in opinion, but the majority holds true to like the same values. So, and I think that's something that is made known, especially during like orientation before you even step foot into the classroom. It's just something that's very prevalent within the staff and faculty.
Are people open to other ideas, or if you don't share their same, ideology, do people get upset with you and not want to associate with you?
I think at Roosevelt it is odd. I haven't really we do have difficult discussions in classes for sure that push, people's preferences, and I have heard them. But I think what our school is also really good at doing is de-escalating and also welcoming to, see the other side's opinion, because at the end of the day, that's what a conversation is. It's not forcing your opinions on one another. It's discussing and furthering and enlightening one another. So I think that's also something that I have seen, that I personally appreciate from Roosevelt, is just that aspect of being able to see both sides, whether you come to a consensus or not. That's not the point. It's just to see like what each person has to offer.
Right. And feeling that you can share your ideas. And I was also leaning into that idea that you were so shy and walled away from others earlier, and you've totally like become this very engaged and active person. So I think that probably speaks to the university experience as well. So Faye, I'm so interested to know, how did you end up at Roosevelt University? Coming from Nigeria, I know your family moved here, but I'm curious to know how Roosevelt became your top choice.
Roosevelt was, I never actually heard of the school because I was going to South Suburban College, community college right by my house. And I went to a different university because the schools on my mind were like Northern Illinois, Southern Illinois, Eastern. I wanted to leave home, you know. I just wanted to get away. So I went to one of those schools for a semester, and then I came back home. And then I was like, okay, let me take some classes back at South to cut cost. So I don't know if you guys know Jose. He's one of the recruiters for transfer student. And then I was walking down the hall with one of my professors after tutoring, and we were discussing. And then he saw me. And then when I was walking back, then he called me and he was like talking to me about the school. And I was like, I don't know if I'm interested in going to a school in Chicago. And then he was like, I promise you, you're gonna love it, this, that. And I was like, okay, just, you know, I don't want to be the bad person. I signed up, and in my mind, I was like, no, never. I'm not going. I'm gonna go back to my other school. So I signed up, and then he was asking about my GPA. I told him, and he was like, oh, you know, you qualify for a scholarship. And I was like, okay, you got my attention. Okay, now let's talk. And then he was telling me about everything. And then I was talking to him, and he was understanding about every of my questions. He answered everything. And I was like, okay, I would consider it. And for like half the semester, every time I saw him, I try to like avoid him so he doesn't call me and ask, oh, did you apply? So I got an email from the school. I was accepted and I got the scholarship. So I was like, oh, well, this is still a lot for me, but let me see. Okay. So I was like, okay, let me try. And then I went to Roosevelt. And then I was like, okay.
So you went to campus and just kind of looked around, or you?
No, I never did. I was just
never
like,
even.
No, I did not. I was like, it's close to home. I was homesick I knew I wanted to leave home, but whenever I left, I was homesick. I wanted to eat my mom's food. So I was like, let me just stay close to home. So I know when I get back, I know there's dinner waiting for me. I don't have to like struggle. I just go come. That's it. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with anything. I could stay anywhere. So I talked to my dad about it, and he was like, okay, if that's what you want, And then my friends were like, you could try. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I was like, yeah, let me just give it a try.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So you wanted to leave home so badly, and you went to this other school, and you were just painfully homesick. Is that what happened?
Well, for me, like that one semester I spent away from home was not good because I was with friends who wanted to party all the time. I was really distracted, and that was not helping, like especially for my degree. I know school is really hard, but that was not the kind of environment I wanted to be in. And I knew then and there, because I told them that I'm not sure if I was going to come back, because I'm not the kind of party person. I'm an introvert. I want to be in my house, in my room. but they always wanted to take me out, and I got really distracted that semester, and I was like, no, that environment was really toxic. So that was why I went back to my community college for one more semester.
Was that a hard thing to do, or did you feel like that was the right thing to do? Were you conflicted? Because I know there's so many people who transfer and feel, they judge themselves, like, oh, I didn't succeed, or, they look at it as failure or success, but it sounds like you are really tuned into what was the right choice for you.
Yeah, it was more of the right thing to do, but I felt really bad because I made a lot of friends there, and we were really cool. Everything was going great, but it was just that one thing that I did not like. I don't want to have for my goal. I know I need a high GPA for it, so I don't want anything messing up that one thing that is like a huge requirement. So I knew that I had to do the right thing by leaving.
Yeah. So it's interesting. You left because you weren't running away from something. You left because you were looking for something and you couldn't get it in that environment. I think I think that's really it's something I talk to a lot of students about, is like when you leave and when you get scared, or when you make that change, are you making it because it's uncomfortable, because you're scared, or are you making it because it's uncomfortable because you can't get what you want? I think that it sounded like you were really aligned. And I just want to make sure that anybody, like, transferring is a very normal thing. Transferring happens all the time. People change their mind. Nobody really talks about transferring. And it's totally an empowering, important thing to do if you need to do. And I think it's really great. I'm really happy to hear that, because you're going to end up fulfilling your professional dreams, and I'm sure your personal ones as well. And your path is your path, and everybody's path is their path. Yeah. And I love that. I also love talking to students who are in the city, who are commuting, going to school and living at home and having an independent life and being fulfilled. How do you do that? How can you be so involved? And Samantha, let's go back to you. I want to know your places. So when I mention places are where you find connection and community. It's where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love. So those are the places. So at Roosevelt, you have found lots of places. If you can tell us the places where you found your people, I would love to get a sense of what that's like for you.
Yeah, so I think one place that kind of encompasses all of them is what we call the Center of Student Involvement, which is CSI. This is an office that holds home to all of our student organizations, all of the main student leadership positions that most of us obtain. That is where I submitted my very first application to be an orientation leader back in 2017. And that is the same office where I got my first interview and job acceptance to be an orientation leader. So nice. I think that as a whole, that entire office has really instilled so much in me to want to keep going and pursue different leadership roles throughout the 4 years that I've been at Roosevelt so far. But yeah, I would just say CSI as a whole.
So you walk into CSI and you see all the different organizations and activities and opportunities, and then you just walk into a room and ask for an application?
Well, at that time, it was a little bit different than how it is now, because I've seen a lot of different people take charge of that office throughout the years. So at that time, yes, they had a bunch of flyers posted throughout, one on social media. So that's how I first found out about the job. Was very big on social media, and it was heavily advertised that way. But also I was close with the director of our multicultural student support services office, and she directed me. She told me, she said, I think you would be a great applicant. I think you would be very fit for the job. And so actually for her, she kind of pushed me, and we have to apply with recommendations. She was the very first person to recommend me for that job.
What's her name?
Her name is Pamela Thompson Hill. So
Pamela Thompson Hill took Shy Sam, right? Took Shy Sam and said, Shy Sam, you need to do this, and I'm going to push you to do this. Is that kind of how it went down?
Yeah, because she was the person in charge of this bridging program that we had from high school to college. So she saw my development over the 6 weeks and also kind of took me under her wing for that first semester I was there.
Okay, so what's her name again? I want to write it down.
Pamela Thompson Hill.
Pamela Thompson Hill.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I love that Pamela has 3 names. It just makes it even more dramatic that she was in your corner. And I just think that's so wonderful. So that was really where you found somebody who really believed in you and saw who you are and what you're capable of. And that person really encouraged you to get involved and prove to yourself that you're worthy and deserving and capable. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh yeah, 110%.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to have someone. It's nice to know that there are those people. It's hard to find those people. And if anyone's joining us, Sam, can I call you Sam? Because you like to call yourself Sam. I call you Samantha, but do you want me to call you Samantha anymore? Or like if we made it to Sam, we've advanced to Sam. Right, because Sam grew up at Roosevelt with her parents going to school, which has just got to be the coolest thing for these teachers to see 10-year-old Sam, who's like sitting in class, who's all of a sudden like just being incredible and so involved in so many ways. So Vanessa, tell me where are your places? We could do a speed round. Where are your places at Roosevelt?
Kind of the same, Center for Student Involvement. That's where I also applied to be an orientation leader. I would say the Learning Commons, which is on the 10th floor in the library. That's where I'm a peer mentor. And I would also say in like the first floor of our auditorium building, we have 2 buildings. So there is located both Multicultural Student Support Service with Miss Pam, and the other office that's there is the McNair office. So they've helped me a lot. So I would say a little bit of everywhere because Sam and I are everything together. So
the McNair office. So are you also, let me see, are you a McNair scholar? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for people who aren't familiar with McNair Scholars and TRIO and that whole office, can you please help people to understand what the office is, how you can become a McNair Scholar, what that even means?
Yeah. So with McNair, if you are interested in going to grad school, they kind of help you with the whole process. So they prepare you in terms of making sure you can have experience. So by experience, I mean like research. So I was able to conduct 2 research studies with their office, and they also prepare you for any tests. So for me, I had to take the GRE. So they gave us free courses and they just helped us with that. They pay for also the test, and they send you to conferences to present your research, and then they also help you with applications to grad school. So for that, they have waivers, and luckily I've been able to waive all my application fees for grad school. So they've just been so amazing and like helping me prepare and get to grad school. So
that's part of the TRIO program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And student support services, right? So for students.
Yeah, so they're not in the same office. They're like kind of in the same office, but yeah, the Multicultural Student Support Services, it's different from McNair. So
okay, right.
Yeah.
And McNair, for those who aren't familiar, is part of the TRIO programs, which are grant-based programs that if you're a first-year student, you can go to that office and oftentimes there's programs for first-generation students, low-income students, underrepresented populations. And what's great is they give you community and waivers and offer amazing support. So the idea of being a commuter and being able to get so involved, like how can you commute and still be so involved and be able to get home? I mean, this is when people were on campus a little more, but like, how do you commute and be so involved and have the whole college experience?
I would say it's all about planning, making sure that you have enough time, looking at your schedule, making sure that this is something that you would be able to handle. So Sam and I were in a lot of things on campus, and a lot of people often tell us like we're crazy, or they tell us, you have a lot on your plate, maybe you should, relax. But we all we know how to time manage, especially with being a peer mentor. So I think for us, like we commute, but we also know what we can handle. We know how to fix it in our schedule. And yeah, pretty much.
When students were on campus, would you drive? Would you take public transportation? How would you get back and forth? And when it comes to being safe late at night and being able to manage that, how do you do that?
We would take the train. Sam and I, we actually live kind of close to each other, 15 minutes away. So we would take the train together. I think we've always aimed at like having kind of a buddy system, and we became best buddies. So we always go to school together. We come back together. Now, occasionally we do have to go to campus. So usually on Tuesdays we go to campus, but we end up driving there now. And again, like we go together and then we leave together. So
That's great. So you found a buddy. So when you're doing these extracurriculars and getting involved, really trying to find someone who you can go back and forth with is really helpful. And then I need to know, and I want to just understand, how did you first meet? Like who saw who first? Like how did this all go down, Samantha?
So Vanessa saw me first. This was actually the first year that I was hired to be an orientation leader. Vanessa was a member of my lovely group that I got. And let me tell you, she gave me a little bit of a run for my money during that job because Vanessa is a very social butterfly type person and she wanted to make friends with everyone during the sessions. So I was like, oh my goodness, like students can't talk. They're supposed to, take in as much information as they can. So we had a group chat and I would at her specifically and I would be like, please turn around, please be quiet. And look at us now. We're the best of friends. She thought I was so cool. She wanted to be me. So here we are.
Is that how you remember it, Vanessa?
no, I don't really remember it that way. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I saw her. I was like, oh, she seems like she's cool. Like, I don't know. Freshman Vanessa was like, I don't know, like she got that position. That must mean like she's cool or like, she knows something about what she's talking about. So I was like, okay, like, yes. So then, I don't know, I was a very social person, or I still am, but I don't know, I just wanted to make friends. And obviously I knew Sam, she had to be involved or she had to know her way around campus because she was an orientation leader. So I was like, what better way to get to know people than to become friends with the orientation leader? So that's what happened.
Is she a year older than you, or are you the same age?
So I am a super senior technically. So
Gotcha.
I extended my stay for one extra semester. So technically, well, actually I'm not even, oh no, I am older than her. I am technically a year younger than my academic grade. So Vanessa and I are the same age right now. We're only a couple months apart.
Gotcha. Okay, so that explains it. All right, so Lilly, I want to know, where are your places at Roosevelt where you find connection, community, friends? Where do you hang?
Yeah, well, last year, so I came into Roosevelt and I didn't know a single soul, like not one. So that was interesting. I got paired with random roommates and I lived in a quad room last year. So it was me and 3 other girls sharing one small room together. There was 2 bunk beds. And so we got to know each other very, very quick. And I don't know. I think I've heard so many roommate horror stories, but they all became my best friends. Like, I guess I really, really lucked out, or Roosevelt's just pretty cool when it comes to that. But I definitely, rooming with people that you don't know already or don't know very well, especially your first year, I feel like that can be very helpful. It could go wrong, but it could also go right. And I don't think that's talked about enough. Like, because most of the time when you have a good roommate, you're just like, oh, here's my friend. And so a lot of people don't hear the stories where you're meeting your best friend through random roommate selections and stuff like that. Because I've heard so many bad stories, but I've met a lot of very good people that way. And so that's what really started, my connection at Roosevelt. And then with my roommate, we started attending events together, and that's how I got involved with student government and just meeting everyone else. I started going to events with my roommates that I had met. So I definitely recommend rooming with people you don't know if you're comfortable with that.
Right. And you ended up in this incredible city in a new community with these roommates in a tight space. How did you manage that? What was it like to live in the city? How were you able to navigate that change? Because it's got to be a pretty dramatic difference. I know you had some taste of it with your Lincoln Park visits, but living in the Loop and hanging out in Lincoln Park are 2 different experiences.
Yeah. No, the city, I understand that it's not for everybody, but I don't want it to sound dumb, but there's something really kind of magical about it. I hate saying that word, but like seriously, especially at night, even, and I never felt like I was in danger walking alone. I tried not to do it often, but there were nights where I was just walking down the street alone and all you could see was, lights in the windows and you see all these huge buildings and you're walking alone down the street in a big city. And it's it's kind of like a powerful feeling being in a big city and navigating and, learning new things. Like even though you're one person in a very big crowd, it's like it's very empowering. And so that's what I love about the city. It just feels good to be there, especially downtown. It's just there's so much to do, so much to see, and it's like overwhelming, but it's in a good way.
Yeah. I'm like holding back because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I love Chicago and I love the energy. I love hearing the train overhead. I love seeing people who are going different places with so much on their mind and there's so much energy and there's people who are creating and there's people who are working and there's people who are just walking and there's people who are visiting and you're just surrounded by so many different stories and it's not something that you can experience everywhere and especially where you go to school I think is really it's intense and it's intensely energetic. Would you say that? Then you've got the moments where it's like that peace and like the two compared makes it really magical. I could visualize you walking down, whatever street. What was it? Wabash or State or,
Yeah, Wabash. Any
yeah.
of them. I mean, I guess any street really. Every street just feels great. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great show. I have a lot of pride. I enjoy it. I mean, total bias. I'm, a Chicago person and lived in the city for like 20 years. So I get it. Faye, so tell me, I want to know your places at Roosevelt. I'm sure one of them is the library.
Yeah.
You do a lot of studying, but where else do you get to enjoy yourself?
I tutor at the Learning Commons. I'm a math tutor and I'm also a tutor for the science department and I tutor chemistry.
Nice.
So I get a lot of like students and I don't mean to brag, but I'm an awesome tutor, I get that a lot.
Brag, right. Could people hire you to tutor them?
No, the school.
Oh, so you get paid for that. Yeah, but you could even do like private tutoring later on too, if you have time.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do
you're
private on the yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And you probably learn a lot.
Exactly. So far I learned that when you tutor, it sticks, like that knowledge sticks because you're doing it continuously and you know what you're doing. So it just sticks like that. But that's the honors program also awesome program. I got on the leadership council and I was like, oh, I need leadership experience. And I saw like, okay, my advisor, Sarah Maria, she was like, okay, you could like apply for there's application going on for vice president and then, president and financial coordinator. And I was like, I know everyone's going to be gunning for president and vice president. And I'm not, I don't like competitions. So I was like, okay, I'll just apply for a financial coordinator. And guess what? I was the only one. So I got it. And I was like, okay, even if nobody votes for me, I'm the only person. So I got that. And I've been doing that so far. And it's been working. I am in so many clubs that I don't know how I keep up, but I try my best to
Battle them off.
Yeah.
What clubs?
So I'm in the Natural Science Club and the Pre-Medical Student Association, in the multicultural support, but I don't have to do anything for that one. The MSSS. I'm in the actual science club, natural actual science club. That's the math department. And honors leadership council. I tutor math. I tutor chemistry, orgo, gen chem. I could do biology too, but I'm not like up there with biology.
Right.
And yeah, SGA. Oh, I also joined SGA. and I was a orientation leader this year, and that was how I met Sam and Vanessa.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah.
I love it. And I love that you are the student who like couldn't really focus. You weren't excited about school
No.
back in Nigeria,
Yeah.
right? Like you barely studied and now you're tutoring in the honors program, doing all this
Yeah.
amazing work. It's really remarkable. I know that some of you are in speed, right? And can you tell me a little bit about speed? Because I love campus programs. I've worked with campus programs before. Who's involved with that? Who can kind of give me a little overview of speed and just how you get involved?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But I feel the person most suitable to talk about speed would be our chair. So that is Vanessa.
Please, Vanessa.
So SPEED is the Student Programming Board. So I am chair, as Sam said, and I'm also interim logistics and assessment coordinator. So we're pretty much a group of students who plan events for our peers and the Roosevelt community. So we plan homecoming, we plan smaller events, and now a lot of them are virtual events. But it's overall like a really good experience, and we love to, create kind of that community for students.
What's one of the coolest events that you have put on in the past couple of years that really fills you with just such pride and joy?
Well, usually it's our homecoming. Like our homecoming is the biggest one that we put together. But outside of homecoming, we've had a couple. But one we brought pretty much a zoo to Roosevelt, and it was. I don't remember exactly like where one of our members got these animals from. So Sam, I don't know if you could remember, but pretty much we brought goats on campus.
We had a petting zoo. So I'm pretty sure we've worked with this company previously for a different event, nothing like this. This was the first time ever that we were able to rent out our school's lobby and have all of these animals. We had goats, we had a chicken, we had, what else did we have? I don't even remember, but we had a variety of different animals sitting in our lobby. And people would just come in with their wristbands and they would pet and take pictures with the different animals we had. It was a great time.
Big success.
Big success. Oh yeah, we had a bunch of people show up to that one.
Right, the zoo brought to you by Speed. Right.
Brought to you by Speed.
Yeah, there you go. Right, and anyone could be involved with Speed, right? You can just volunteer. You can find a role. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we have like the main positions. Usually it's 6 positions. But yes, you can volunteer. We have like regular volunteers.
Right. You won't reject people. You'll say, "Welcome. We always have something for you to do."
Yeah.
Yes, the more help, the better.
Because I think that's really important to make sure that when you are at a school and you're part of a community, that you have places where you have an invitation. Because a lot of groups and organizations, they don't always have open access, but I think it's wonderful that you have that. So that's great. There's 2 questions. One, I want to know your most uncomfortable experience and how you got through it. And then I want to know
in college or just in general?
You can make it anything, because I think that it really is important, because this is where you are now, and you might have been in a place before that makes you being where you are now even that more interesting and fascinating. So I'd love that. So I want to know your most uncomfortable experience, and if you want to do college, that's great, and if you want to go back to your younger years, that's great too. And I want to understand how you were able to get through it. So Samantha, give me a good uncomfortable experience. And I think I know, I kind of know what I want you to share if you share it, because you mentioned it before.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
I take everyone back to this day. It was October 17th, 2019. I experienced my first anxiety attack. And to me, let's just walk through the day. So it was fine. I was living my best life. I went to class. I had a midterm, but I was also very involved. At this point in time, I was the most involved with clubs, with student leadership positions. And at that time, the person who would run this main office of CSI, there wasn't anyone. We were looking for someone to hire at that time. So it was, student leaders trying to help run and keep everything afloat, it's a lot. So I had never had so much stress like this before. So I was just walking around. I remember I went to go grab a sandwich from the cafeteria. And as I was ordering, my chest started tightening. And I was like, in that moment, I swear, I thought I had asthma. I was about to start running down those halls and ask someone for an inhaler because I was like, someone needs to help open up my lungs. I was like, I can't do this. But it was so odd. And then I started getting very dizzy. And I was like, okay, like there's something like medically wrong with me. I don't know. So then I remember going back up to CSI. And at the time we had grad interns. Thank God for them, because since they were much older than me, some of them had experienced anxiety before. So they sat me down and they were like, you're having an anxiety attack. Like you need to try and de-stress, try to like ease your mind as much as you can. But that's the thing with anxiety is it lies so much deeper than just your thoughts. Nothing can be on your head, but it can just be something that's so much deeper than that, that's provoking your subconscious, which is what was happening to me. So they were like, just try to breathe. So they did breathing exercises with me, which after a while of not being able to breathe, it really helped open that up. And, breathing techniques really help recenter yourself, which is something that I learned from them and through Vanessa. She is actually interning at a crisis hotline. So she helped me with little tricks with that. But, just the aspect of learning how to cope with something that's so uncomfortable physically and coming to terms with the fact that this is something that's going on with me mentally, but it impacts me in such a physical way was so hard for me. But I think honestly having the support group that I have with, CSI as a whole, but my friends who have also lived and experienced that and kind of just telling me time and time again that this is normal, this is something that happens, you're not dying, you're not alone, really helped ease my head, because in those times you really feel like you are alone and that you're the only one experiencing this.
So after you have these physical symptoms and you're helped by these grad students who tell you it's an anxiety attack, what do you do then? Do you call a doctor? Do you go to the counseling center? You probably call Vanessa.
I did. I was texting her that whole day because I'm sure Vanessa will share a little bit later, but she was also going through some things at that time. So she couldn't really be there with me physically, but as much as she could, she would be there with me through text. And I really appreciate that from her. But as soon as, everyone told me that was happening, I was having an anxiety attack for around 7 hours. That was not a fun time.
Wow.
Yeah, I just couldn't ease myself. I called my mom because this was also during homecoming week. So I had so much going on with speed. After the event, I called my mom. She picked me up and she took me to the hospital just because we wanted to rule out that there was nothing going on physically. Well, there was, but nothing more medically wrong.
Right.
So
and just for people who are joining us, SPEED is if you're just catching this clip, it's the campus activities program body. So it wasn't SPEED. It was everything going on with speed. I just want to clarify that to make sure it's crystal clear. So then you went to the hospital to make sure to rule out those other medical issues. And then let's pick up from there.
Right. So after, they ran an EKG, they gave me some fluids because I was dehydrated. They basically came to terms saying that this was a fight or flight response due to stress, and that this is something that, I need to be taken. It needed to have a closer look, basically from a psychological point of view. And that's exactly what I did. So it was just a lot that I was dealing with. I didn't go to the counseling center right away. I went to my boss at the time, who was working for the Learning Commons, who was also kind of an advocate for students. And he also had a background in clinical psychology. So a part of his job is he would meet weekly with students to try and help de-escalate any emotional things that were happening with them at the time. And so he took me on as one of his cases and would sit with me weekly, and we would kind of work through any emotions that I had at the time.
And he just took that upon himself, just seeing that.
Yeah, it was just completely, he just sat me down. He also knew everything that was happening with me at the time because he was my boss. So he knew any built up trauma that had happened prior to what was currently happening at that point in time. And he was like, look, this is too much for you just to deal with on your head. He recommended I went to the counselor, but he also took it upon himself to try and sit and help as much as he could.
Right. And then did you ever reach out and talk to a therapist and find ways to cope with this and manage it?
I did not, which seems kind of like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I? But I
There's
also,
no judgment. There's no judgment at all.
yeah. Oh, sorry, my dog. But
That's okay. Your dog is like, your dog's judging you.
yeah, he's like, girl, you should have gotten the help a long time ago.
No, I'm just curious, and I know it's a personal question. I want to respect your boundaries, but
Right.
you know, I just like to understand because so many people are dealing with so much stress and anxiety. You know.
Right. I think for me, I don't know. Actually, there really isn't a specific reason why I think a big reason that I didn't seek help, and I think also I'm playing into the stigma that I'm trying to break, which is a little bit hypocritical here, but I also feel like at that specific point in time, I was able to deal with it on my own and it got better, but it never really gets better until you get that professional help, right? Because I'm only one person and I'm not educated enough to help myself. But at the same time, when it was getting so bad, I felt like no one in their power could help me because it was just so bad at that point.
Yeah.
But I think like also learning self-help techniques. I write a lot. I really love writing. And I feel like as soon as I get into like these really anxious moods, I put that all out on paper. And writing for me is a form of therapy, which I know it is for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
I definitely would not stray away from actually receiving like professional therapeutic help. I think that is something that I'm working towards as a goal, because if I want to help make a change, I definitely want to like have that change affect me like
Yeah.
individually.
Well, I want to just also reiterate, like, there's no judgment because I recently, you know, I've been helping people my whole life through advice, writing books. And I'd say I went to a therapist, you know, probably like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, just for a couple times. But it's been in the past 3 years that I really said, you know what, I want to create some changes, and I feel powerless over just being able to help at the level I want to help, whether it's me or other people, and have been seeing a therapist on a regular basis, and it's just been magic, you know, for me. And again, like, there's people do it at their own time, and some people never need to and can find wonderful balance and all the answers they need. For me, it took a while, and, you know, probably into my 40s, where I was like, okay, you know, like, wow, he's so young in his 40s. How long's he been doing this? But it really is. It's been wonderful for me. So for someone who found it later in life, who really has felt empowered and emboldened, and it really has calmed my mind, anybody, and this isn't just for you, it's just anybody. It's so wonderful to have someone to talk to who doesn't have the same last name, who you can emotionally vomit all over without judgment. So bleh, and then you leave, and it's just it's a really cool thing to experience. But thanks for sharing that. I think it's very brave to share what you've been through, and also just where you are in the journey of like this point in your life. And it'll be fun that you have this, because it'll also be a fun thing to look back on in the future as well. Vanessa, I want to know your most uncomfortable experience. How do you get through that?
Yeah. So everyone here, even you know, that in September of 2019, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So that was the hardest thing for me because I was 20 years old. I was experiencing like headaches the week before and some bruising, and that was honestly the only reason that I went to the hospital. But for me, like, that never crossed my mind. It was just like it just wasn't something that crossed my mind. So my mom was actually the one that like forced me to go to the ER. And once I got there, like after a long time, they kind of put me in a room, and that's when I started to realize that maybe this was something a little bit more serious. And the doctor just kind of flat out said it, like, oh, we think like you have leukemia. And that was just like I don't know, like on a Monday, like I was like, well, not even that, just the whole cancer. Like I was like, what? So I don't know, like I was 20, and like to be told that, you know, there's a possibility of like me dying, like uncertainty of this like future. That was just something that was really hard. And on top of that, like I was a student, so I had like so much going on. It was my junior year of college, so it was just there was a lot of things that came to play. Like I didn't know like treatment wise, I didn't know what was going to happen. Like I didn't know a lot about leukemia, so that was just like the hardest time for me.
How do you get through that?
Well, it was, I don't know, I think like having my support system, obviously science, shout out to science, because I was able to get treatment. I went through chemo. I went through 5 rounds of chemo, and I went through a lot of pills, and just overall, like my support system, I think I had, like Sam, she was, even if she wasn't with me like every day, like she was texting me every day. I had my family texting me every day. I had a lot of visitors, and overall, like it was really hard. I spent 45 days in the hospital. So like on top of like staying in the hospital, like I continued with school. So having a support system at school was honestly like, I think what helped me get through it. And then even going through like treatment after, as of June, I was barely, told that I was cancer free, but even like then, thank you. Even then, just because I wasn't, just because I wasn't in the hospital, like I was still going through treatment, but not a lot of people saw that. And then I didn't lose my hair, so a lot of people kind of assumed that like I was okay. They didn't really see like the effects that it had, and it was like really hard because when it's something that's like on the inside and like not a lot of people can see, you don't really know like how much it affects the person and also how much the person is willing to share. So for me, I've always really been like open about my experience, but there have been like a couple of times where people are like, oh, well, like you look good, like you're like fine, right? And I was like starting treatment, or I was on my next round of chemo, and like they don't know about the side effects, like they can't see them. So yeah. I think like obviously having like my support system was just like the biggest thing for me that allowed me to get through it.
So your people, you had Vanessa, you have your family, you have your doctors, you had who at Roosevelt was like, who were the heroes and superstars?
I would say so many. I can't even.
Let's list them.
Okay, so Adam Woke, he's from my boss from the Peer Mentor, the same boss that was helping Sam. Pamela Thompson Hill, Peggy Valdez from McNair, all of CSI, Emily Alvelo, our old CSI director, Jose Manopin, he actually came to visit me at the hospital. And like the rest, they'd like send me flowers or like bears. But overall, like just a lot of people at Roosevelt, they like were reaching out. The main people I worked with pretty much were kind of reaching out, making sure that I was doing okay. In terms of classes, Adam, who was the director of the Learning Commons, he was the one that kind of like fixed my accommodation, talked to my professors. Anything I really had like a problem with, he decided to take it upon himself to like help me and like be like the case manager, I guess, for what I was going through. So honestly, I think he's one of like the biggest people at Roosevelt that really helped me. And then on top of like Sam, she was out here like helping me with everything. We're in a lot of things together. So she kind of, took on not only her role, but like my role as well when I couldn't be there on campus.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like an amazing support system. I'm always fascinated to hear who steps up and how you manage that. And I would never know how to manage that. And I think only somebody who's been through that would truly understand. And I'm so happy you're healthy and you're doing well now.
Yeah, I'm doing really well now. I actually just had my 3-month checkup, and I'm still cancer free, still no cancer. So now it's just like every 3 months for the next 2 years. I have blood work to do, but other than that, there's nothing, no more pills, no more treatment. So hopefully it stays like this.
Well, that's amazing. I feel like I'm like, there's so much I want to talk to you all about. I'll follow up and I want to learn more about that. I want to understand that, like when you're 19 and you're faced with the uncertainty and something that, people who would be much older would expect, and how that just changes your life perspective. Because I'm sure it does in some way, right?
Oh yeah, I think, well, for me, I don't know, maybe it's just because like I'm a psych major too. Like it changed me a lot, but I think I also knew like how to handle it. I mean, I went through like a really like dark period where I thought like things just weren't worth it. So like when I was in the hospital, like it was just, I don't know, like things aren't worth it. Like, why is this happening to me? And it was kind of hard because a lot of the people, like you said, were older. Like everyone on the floor was older. Even when I was doing outpatient, like everyone was older. So I felt like no one really kind of understood me. And when I mean, I had my support system, but like even trying to talk to them, like, as you said, it's like until you go through it, you can't really like understand it. So no one really like understood it. So it was just it was hard. I would say it was really hard. But I was able to like get out of those, dark times, and I was like, this is, like things are worth it. My life is, like going good. So
Yeah, I've heard that sometimes the chemo can also affect how you process life in terms of depression and the things that helped you in the past to be able to find the light, you can't always find. And I love that you're here. And for anybody who's going through that can see that it can get really dark, but you can also get through it. I think that part of like, I talk a lot about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And if somebody is dealing with any of the issues that we've talked about today, are you all open to people who come across this reaching out to you, asking you questions, interacting with you? Is that something you're comfortable with? Yes. Yeah. And Lily, you're cool with that too? Yeah. And Faye, you're cool with that? Yeah, because you're all you all have stories. You're so interesting. I'm so grateful. Faye, I want to hear about your most uncomfortable experience and how you got through it. And it sounds like you've had a bunch. You could pick one.
Okay, I'll pick the most recent one. So like this online classes, the transition going online, it has been really, really hard for me, especially like taking 7 classes, and most of them are like science. Yes. So it's been really hard. At the beginning of the semester, it was really overwhelming. And I'm not the kind of student who would like, ask teachers to, extend times. I'm not used to it. I don't know how to. But it got to the point where I was just like, I told my honors teacher, because I'm taking the thesis class, and I was like, I need to talk to you. Like I needed to talk to someone. And then I started to explain to her, and I started to cry. And I was like, you have to extend this because I don't even know what I'm doing yet. And I had to pick a research topic on what I was going to do next semester. And I had no idea what was going on in my other classes. For some reason, everything was just jacked up at the same time. So she calmed me down and she told me, talk to your teachers. They're there to help you. And I think that was the best thing that happened to me this semester, because I emailed all of my teachers and I was like, this is what is going on, and this is why I've been like really lacking this semester. I'm not that kind of student, and I would really appreciate if you understand that my point of view. And they were all like, welcoming about it, and I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. So they were all really, amazing, and they were like, okay, take your time, and I'm back on track now.
Yay. It's hard to ask for help, right?
It's really hard. I don't know why. Maybe because growing up, my teachers in Nigeria, you're never late on anything. They don't take excuses. So I think that's why my mentality hasn't really changed. I don't know, but they don't give extensions. They don't want to hear stories. They just want you to do it when it's due. So I'm just now like getting into it.
Yeah, I find most of the professors, and I've had other students share similar stories about when they just get overwhelmed and it piles on, that when they reach out to their professors and are really honest and show the humility, and also that they truly want to be excellent, the teachers, they really are compassionate and
Yeah.
show empathy, which is really surprising. And it's so wonderful to see. And I'm really happy.
They were really amazing.
Lily, give me your most uncomfortable experience and how you got through it. Do you have one?
I do. I've actually been thinking this whole time if I want to share it or not because
Only if you're comfortable sharing.
Well, yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Because I was kind of thinking, I was like, oh, like my parents don't know about that. You know, it's like certain. I started thinking, I was like, oh, like, because it's kind of serious. But after thinking about what Sam said about like stigma surrounding certain things, like sometimes it's hard talking about it, but it's good to share talking about it and like moving past it because, well, this one's like kind of heavy too, like sexual assault, you know, so that like I did experience that and I don't talk about it like some of my friends don't even know, but I went through
Are you sure that you are comfortable talking about that right now? Because
I'm just kind of gonna talk about like my experience after because I think it's kind of it's the thing with anything I guess traumatic is just kind of like digging yourself out of that feeling and like digging yourself out of that hole because that was something I was experiencing a lot like my senior year of high school. So it was kind of like when I was deciding what college I wanted to go to, you know, it was like I was making all these big decisions and I was feeling very kind of self-conscious. It made me very self-conscious. I like to think I'm a pretty confident person, but like that, it took a hit after that. And so I spent a lot of time, you know, like, why me? Like, is it because I'm confident? Is it because I'm not confident enough? You know, I was kind of like, what's going on with that? And so I went through like a weird period of like not really knowing what to do about that or like what I was doing wrong. And then that's another huge reason I think I did pick Roosevelt just because it's when you're in a big city, you're surrounded by people that are sexually empowered. Like that was new. You know, I was like, wow, you know, that's kind of cool. I took a women in gender studies class my second semester last year and it opened my eyes to a lot of things. You know, I just felt way more comfortable with it. I was like, oh, we did a show of hands in class, like who's experienced like uncomfortable situations. And a lot of people raised their hand. And I was like, I don't feel like I would have felt comfortable like that in any other environment. And so I don't know. I like meeting new people and understanding that other people have gone through that because people back home do not talk about it. They don't talk about sex. They don't talk about female empowerment, like stuff like that. I was completely unaware of. And so college has helped me through that. You know, something that I was dealing with for so long. I went to college and then it definitely helped. Like sometimes you just need a new group of people.
Yeah.
And that's what really helped me.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's in high school who is still trying to process everything and feels very isolated and feels very alone? How can they help themselves now or even in the future?
I think the biggest thing for me was not just being around people that were confident and, you know, like aware of themselves and their sexuality and other stuff, but like finding that in yourself and finding out if you want that in yourself. Some people don't, you know, like that's okay too. Some people don't want to continue looking that direction once they start. But I think like, even my professors were talking about their own, you know, like their own childhood stuff that had gone on, their own high school experience. And so I guess if I could go back and like talk to myself, I would just be like, look into what other people are saying, like understand that other people are going through this, but also that other people are doing work to be more comfortable in their body after it happened, and just kind of like getting in contact, or at least becoming aware that there's a way to bounce back from that, and also, you know, like build on that. You know, it sucks that it happened, but it happened. So like, what can you do with that to, like, I guess, empower yourself? Like, how can you empower yourself through it?
Yeah. I think there's so many communities of survivors who are empowered. And of course, as a white male, you know, sharing this, I'm very aware of who I am and my gender and all of that. So, you know, I'm always very conscious of that. But I've been writing advice for years and have researched books and talked to many people who are survivors. And I even have a talk where there was one story where there was a student who I was talking to who had never told anybody about her assault, and she talked to her roommate, and it was a very big moment because she had never talked to anybody about this, and she started crying. It was just a very cathartic moment. And then the roommate, of course, was so kind and supportive. And then there was another roommate who overheard this and came over and started hugging her. Then the door was open and a couple other people heard. And all of a sudden there were, 5 people in the room hugging this person, letting her know that she's not alone. And I think that part of the loneliness and isolation and the shame part, I think that part is what's so upsetting, because there's so many people who want to help and support survivors. And I think it's a really important thing to bring up. And I always want to be very sensitive to it. And also at the same time, if it's something where, even talking to more people through Roosevelt, or I know that you have a wonderful community here, and even become even more comfortable and empowered. So anyway, thanks for sharing that. And I always want to make sure that I say the right things as well, because, I just want everybody to be happy. Like, you all deserve to be happy, like you deserve to have the life you want, and no one can ever take that away. Like, you're so worthy and deserving. The idea that anyone or any event could do that, to me, is the tragic part, is that you're so deserving and worthy and wonderful. So thanks for sharing that. I want to end with a couple things. I'm going to wrap this up. I know we're going a little bit long, but I'm really grateful that we can have this time together. I want to know something that happened at Roosevelt University that fills you with a great sense of pride and joy, something that just makes you light up, that you accomplished and went through. And we can be brief. So just give me kind of like a quick little bullet point of your proudest, brightest, most joyful experience. And Vanessa, why don't you start off?
I would say continuing my education through like the hardest time of my life, having the opportunity to just, keep going, even though, I was going through like a really rough, dark time.
Yeah, amazing. Samantha, what about you?
I think for mine is I'm a recipient of a scholarship called the Dempsey J. Travis Scholarship, and it is like a thing that I have been involved in since my freshman year. It has carried with me as part of being a different community from Roosevelt. So I think that is my biggest accomplishment, because I got it through Roosevelt.
You got it through Roosevelt. What kind of scholarship is it?
So it's based off of your academics, but it's also it's like a Chicago cultural type scholarship. So Dempsey J. Travis is a historic figure in Chicago, and through this scholarship, we give thanks to him by like reading his books or like any autobiography by him, and we have discussions based around it. So it's a foundation in honor of him that we carry on.
That's wonderful. Lilly, how about you? What's something you're really proud of that gives you a great sense of joy, something you've experienced at Roosevelt?
Yeah, so actually it has to do with my honors advisor, Sarah Maria. Like Faye mentioned earlier, she's amazing. Actually, this happened last week and it seems pretty small, but I was Zooming her for an appointment we had to pick my classes for next semester. And I was actually on my friend's couch and she was like, "Oh, did you get a new couch in your apartment?" And I was like, how cool. Like, that is so cool that she knew me. She knew my like background had changed. She knew that I had changed something. She has met with people all week, but like, it just felt so significant that my advisor knew my background of my Zoom camera enough to like notice a difference. And so I was like, wow, like people care, people will pay attention, my teachers and my advisors. So that just made me so happy last week. It did. So
I love
I'll carry that forever. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Faye, what about you? What's something that gives you joy, a wonderful experience you've had at Roosevelt?
I have two. So one, I also got another scholarship aside from the one I got, which is great because I get it for as long as till I graduate. And my second one was I'm not the person I used to be anymore because of Roosevelt. I'm a much happier person now. I never used to be like this, hyperactive person, and I never used to make friends. I never like people. Human beings stink. Humans are not. We should go extinct. But now I'm like, oh my God! Like I see people, and I'm like so happy to be among them. And all of that happened like my second semester in Roosevelt. I never liked being like in organizations or being like in places with so many people. I just like to be by myself, and I was not really as happy as I am now. I don't know. I made a couple of friends, and they showed me a different view of life. Like everyone's going through something, but that doesn't mean you should bring yourself down. And since then, I've just like held on to that, and that's made me a much more positive person, and I'm grateful for that.
That's wonderful. My final question, and you can be brief. So if you could go back in time and give high school you one tip, if you can go back to your high school hallways, and we started this talking about who you were in high school. So now you can go back to who you were, and now you, in your current form, get to walk down the hall, and you get to whisper in Faye's ear and go, "Hey, Faye, you got to know this. I want to tell you this, Faye. What would you tell high school you if you could go back in time? Faye, going back to Nigeria, what would you whisper in high school Faye's ear, and why?"
I um I would tell myself more positive things because I never grew up with my parents. They were here all the time, and I just joined them. So I moved from a really positive environment to a really negative one, and that was where I spent my high school with a family member, and it wasn't really all that. And I would have told myself to, you're going to a better place. You're going to be very happy. So just hold on to that dream because in the school was the only place I was happy. So whenever I got home, I wasn't really like, but I would have told myself that your future is brighter. So just take advantage of anything that you can.
Awesome. Lilly, if you could go back and see high school you and whisper in high school Lily's ear, what would you tell high school Lilly?
I just wish I could tell her that there's people like me and like just so close. I'm only 5 hours away from home, but I felt like I was in a hole and I could never get out of it. But there's people like me. There's people that have the same opinions as me politically. I was not aware of that. So just that, like that there's people like me that agree with me and want to hear what I have to say.
Right. That's exciting. Let's see. Vanessa, if you could go back and see high school Vanessa in Stagg High School, I know those hallways, and you get to stop Vanessa, what would you tell high school Vanessa?
I would say don't be so hard on yourself. Things are going to work out. And just make sure that you make those connections and reach out, because that's ultimately what's going to get you far. But overall, I think I would say, like, don't be so hard on yourself.
Perfect. And Vanessa's coming. You're going to meet, I mean, not Vanessa's coming. I meant, and Samantha's coming. You're going to meet Samantha soon, right? You can say, hey, Samantha's just a year away or 3 years away. She's there. It's so close. Just get through this and you will meet Samantha. Samantha, if you could go back in time and give high school you one tip, what would you tell you? Sam, let's go to Sam. Let's do this. So Sam, if you could tell high school Sam, what would you tell high school Sam?
I would tell myself to stop being so uptight. There was no reason to live life so sheltered. I don't know what I was doing. But I would also tell her that I am going to accomplish big things because I never thought that everything that I have done throughout my undergrad experience would have been possible. So I would just tell myself to, loosen up a little bit and let things flow because I got it. I had this in the bag the whole time and I didn't even know.
You got it. You got it, Sam. You got it, Vanessa. You got it, Lily. You got it, Faye. This has been so much fun. You are all bright lights. This is just such a wonderful gift that we can spend this time together. And I'm so grateful to be able to be here with you. Is there anything you want to clear up or add before I conclude our conversation? Are we all good? You good? I always leave like a little window just in case someone's like, there's something I need to add. Oh, yes, Vanessa.
So when we were going back about, like who helped me through, what I was going with.
Yeah.
Kayla came in. She was not there when I was diagnosed because then we merged as a school with Robert Morris. But ever since she came in, she's been such a big help to me, and she's just always, been there for me, make sure I have everything that I need, and always checking in. So a big thanks to her, and of course to everyone else, at Roosevelt who's really helped me.
Well, you're so kind. And I knew when I asked you that question, it's kind of like when you win the Academy Award, not that I know what that's like, but like you're on the stage and you're like, and I want to thank this, I want to thank this, I want to thank that. And then it's like you sit down in your seat and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't thank Kayla. But there's always that, and I'm sure there might be some other people. All of you, I just want to remind everybody who's watching and listening, everybody here, verbally, if somebody wants to reach out, is interested in anything that we've talked about, is it weird if they reach out to you, or is it totally cool and comfortable?
Totally cool.
Please reach out to us.
Reach out. And Faye, if there's someone in Nigeria who somehow gets a hold of this and they want to reach out to you, you're cool with that?
Yes, sure.
Wouldn't that be so cool if there's someone in Nigeria who's like in a similar situation, who's like, oh my gosh, I want to be Faye, and we'll hang on to this. Then you'll be a doctor. We're gonna come back in 7-8 years, Faye. Maybe we can all do like a before college TV conversation reunion. Who knows?
Yeah.
You're all so wonderful. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Lily. I want to thank Roosevelt University. You are all so wonderful. I am HARLAN Cohen. I'm grateful to be in your corner. I look forward to continuing this conversation. This is Before College TV Live. This has been a conversation with Roosevelt University students. Thanks, everybody.